So, do you watch like ADCC or like I know you watch like jujitsu, right? Like One
Yep.
Championship, all that type of stuff.
Yep. I try to watch it all.
What do you think about the state of professional jujitsu at this point?
Professional jiu-jitsu, I think it's in a good state. Like it's still a growing sport, but it's hard to get eyes onto something that still just is relatively new and isn't considered exciting. I mean, a boring MMA fight to a lot of people is when they start grappling, and so this is literally just them doing that. So you have to understand what they're trying to do too. It, especially when jiu-jitsu, when it's like you're in someone's guard, that can be like a long, boring match for someone to watch. Like there's a lot of details and a lot of little stuff you can look for. But even as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, like these matches can be boring. Like it's a slow pace, it's methodical. But I'm hoping, at these ADCC, like when you get the best in the world and the CJIs, you're really hoping for these exciting matches to really put some eyes on the sport of what it can be.
So you think that the rule set kind of hinders the sport itself, or as at least from an American's perspective, you know how Americans they're all about their clash and impact football, all that type of stuff.
I I don't know if the rule set hinders it. It's There's just so many different rule sets. You have like the ADC rule sets where it's like the first half is not scored, and the second half the points are scored, and then just understanding what the points are. Even as like a casual watching like wrestling, that can be kind of hard to understand sometimes too, and that's a pretty popular sport in America and in like other countries like Russia. Um, it's just learning what that is. Um, but they're continuously trying, like CJI is trying a new rule set that isn't like ADCC or IBJJF, though those are like the two most common rule sets. So they're trying to push the boundary of what can make it more exciting. I do think the ADCC rule set of the first half not being scored, and it's just like anything kind of goes. Like, so you end up in a bad spot, you technically didn't lose any points, or the other person didn't get any points. I think that helps push the pace a bit, but at the same time, there's a lot of people who utilize that like game plan where they will not do anything literally for the first half of the match because their goal is to score one point and win the match. So they wait until points are ready to kind of start to engage. So it can really it's hard to find the perfect rule set, but I do like what CGI has proposed, and it'll be interesting to see.
So what did they
Yeah.
propose that's
So
different?
So CGI, so what they are doing, and it's kind of MMA based. So everything but the finals are gonna be 3 5-minute rounds with 1 minute of rest in between. It's gonna be a 10 point system, similar to like boxing and UFC, and they're gonna have open scoring. So after the end of each round, the person who won that round is gonna know they won the round, and so the person who's down knows they have to pick it up. And the scoring's gonna be a little weird because it's gonna be based on the action and the initiation of who's being the more aggressive person, who's initiating more, like just initiating more. Uh, it's also scored on close subs and dynamic actions, just trying to create any type of action, and then position control is the third criteria. So it's really gonna be based on if you're trying to, come like trying to engage in grappling. So I hope that works, but we'll see this Friday and Saturday if this rule set is maybe the savior to the sport.
Dude, that sounds
so
awesome.
what's
Actually, it sounds just like MMA scoring, where you're trying to get damage or trying to finish the fight. So that's actually cool to hear.
Yeah, so my question is, so what's the
Mhm.
standard in jujitsu, like a more traditional jujitsu or competing like a style standard? What do you think? Are people not trying to push for submissions as much as they should be, or what's going on? Why do they have to implement these new rules for that?
You gotta think a lot of these matches are they're trying to you gotta think a lot of these guys have it's like a guard versus a standing player type of game. So a lot of the time it's just taking a slow approach. You don't want to get scored on, or they're waiting to get like the last point pretty much. Because if you score too early, now you have a whole another like I don't know how long the match is, 10, 15 minutes to like not let up any points. And so it's just one big long match. So like it'd be not let's say you're up 5 points, you kind of can just cruise and not give up, try not to give up more points to the person. So it's really hard to find rule set that consistently pushes them to engage. Because in wrestling they have like stalling calls, and yeah, there's stalling calls in jiu-jitsu, but you can kind of like move from position to position and avoid the stalling calls. It can be kind of hard to just call out the stalling calls in jiu-jitsu. I find that I do find that difficult, even as a spectator, to kind of understand like what's a stalling, what's not. Because in wrestling, they call those stalling calls so fast. I think because I watch more jiu-jitsu than wrestling, but when I watch wrestling, I'm like, wow, they call that stalling, and I didn't even think the guy was stalling. Because in jiu-jitsu, they can stall all day and they're not going to get any calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
See, I come from the perspective in boxing and striking too.
Mhm.
There's certain styles where they're more they stall more, you could say, you know.
Yep.
And for me, the fundamental theory behind combat sports is to fight, right? In order to
Mhm.
win a fight, you have to fight. There's no other way around it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to see a fight as close to a fight as can be, and a lot of times, even like MMA, sometimes they turn it too much into a sport. And we kind of want to see a fight. I get you're up, you don't want to let anything crazy happen, but we still want to see some initiation. Like if a guy's up 3 rounds, like they know they're up 3 rounds, they might just cruise for those last 2 rounds and get the decision win. Like it happens anywhere, and that's why you really appreciate those fighters, those grapplers, those competitors that no matter what, they are always going hard. And you just, those guys, every sport has those guys, and you just got to love those guys.
But I think that even from a sports perspective,
Hmm.
in order to score points that are going to win you, because it is a fight, it's a combat
Hmm.
sport, it's a combat implementation of combat. You have to, in order to score, you have to do something that looks kind of like fighting,
Hmm.
and like that makes sense, right? To push jujitsu in this direction. I mean, I don't have any experience grappling, but I could imagine that there's going to be people out there that disagree with what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I think I read a lot of the comments. Some people don't like the rules because like, oh, they're like it's all based on what the judges think they're seeing with the initiation. But I think we got to try something a little new. Like it doesn't hurt to try something new for something that we're trying to grow. And so I'm excited to see the new rules for CJI. And it's also going to
Yeah.
be in a pit, which is also going to
Oh.
be a unique the like the karate pit.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right, I saw that. So that's
So
like their attempt at like closing down the real estate, right? So people don't just like back
Run it.
away. So
Yep.
they kind of get penalized by being in a poor position by running into the
Hmm.
pit. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the podcast, please like, share, and subscribe.
also check us out on Instagram at P4P Combat Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.